Looks like we are live on Facebook. Welcome, everyone. All right, so we are going to be talking about how to deal with indecision. And let me start out by obviously, I'm on like way later than I wanted to be. And this sometimes can be a real challenge. And so I had indecision about what to talk about today. And so delayed, procrastinate, and just because you're aware of all of these things and doing the inner work doesn't mean you're completely immune to this because, after all, we are all human beings and we are going to have moments of doubt and uncertainty and indecision. And today I want to talk about different things to think about and factor in when you are dealing with indecision. When is a good time to make a decision and when is not? So, if this is your first time joining me, sorry, I got some cat hair. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Tina. I am a happiness coach. I help people with dealing with feelings of depression, anxiety, frustrations, business owners that are dealing with this. And it is a trauma informed approach. Wow. Let me just take a sip of tea here for a second. All right. So it's a trauma informed approach, and I also use corporate change management tactics as well. So, because what I've found is that this stuff applied and helped me a lot in the business world, whether it was in sales or whether it was operations, project management, IT, whatever it was. If there's humans involved, then this process is important, and it's being able to understand your own inner work so that you can be a better support to other people. So, that being said, so one of the things I wanted to talk about is one time that you absolutely should delay your decision is if you find that you're in an emotionally reactive state. If you are in an emotional reactive state, I definitely would strongly encourage you, if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or sick, any of those five, you definitely want to delay something that is a major decision that could have a big impact on your life, your team, or consequences that maybe you haven't had time to think through. Of course, there are always times where you need to make quick decisions, especially as a business owner, that you need to make sure that you are on the ball, you don't have time to mess around, and you make those decisions very clear, decisive. Now, this all requires that you have enough information to be able to make an informed decision. And depending on the consequences or fallout, it could cause you to um, invest more time into making that decision and understanding, um, is this going to be something that is going to be say say you decide to sell your business, kind of thing. If you decide to sell your business, that's a pretty final decision. So you want to make sure that you're making sure that you are taking enough time, that you're putting things in place of what it is that you are wanting out of the situation, what it is that you're going to do, and what it looks like after you've actually made that decision. So understanding the steps that come after this decision is made and assuming everything goes the way that you're expecting it to, what comes next, right? So that helps with understanding when you're making those bigger decisions. Now, every day, especially if you're in um, business, there's a million decisions that you have to make every day. Um, Now, when these become emotional decisions, um, and you might be very good at compartmentalizing your feelings and being able to turn them off. I know I have for years in transport and logistics. There is no crying in logistics. There is no crying in transport, kind of like there is no crying in baseball. And so learning to turn those feelings off, well, I was made for that because I grew up in a home where there was a lot of trauma, and the way to cope with it was to turn and disassociate from emotions. However, unfortunately, there is like an emotional credit card that you rack up, and that will be a price that you have to pay, and you do have to pay that eventually. So, um, how this came up and why I was talking about it is because I found I was reactive today. So, Brandon, if you are watching, I apologize for kind of going off on your post there. But the quote that was posted was something along the lines of indecision is a decision. And what it implies is that if you don't make a decision, that decision will be made for you, kind of thing. So, understanding that, and I agree with that to an extent, but understanding why somebody is in a state of indecision, and always having to remember that if we are making statements, it is a judgment. Uh, you're stating that as a fact. And when it comes to something like understanding why somebody's being indecisive, I can promise you it's not a just cut and dry fact thing. There is a much better approach to take the approach of questions, of trying to understand why is there indecision. No different than if you were closing a sale and at the end that the customer is kind of like, you know what, I'm not sure. And they give all kinds of objections. And if you're truly doing your job as a closer, then you are seeking to understand what is their fear? What is it that they're afraid of? What are their concerns so that you can help solve the problem, right? Because it's not a matter of trying to manipulate the situation. If you are a good closer and you are doing your job properly, you're not trying to manipulate or persuade them into making a decision. You're trying to understand, is this the right decision for them to make, and helping them be certain about whichever path that they take. And so if they are in a place of indecision, then you haven't closed the sale. You haven't helped them get to a place where they are certain about whichever decision, whether they buy from you or they're certain that they do not want to buy from you. Or maybe it's clear, no, I absolutely want to buy from you. However, I don't know how I'm going to come up with the funds, or I don't know how I'm going to fit this into my schedule. Being able to ask good questions to help them understand, help them solve the problem is the route to being a good closer and being able to understand, making sure that they have made that decision and they've gone from a place of logic to that they are certain in their heart that this is the right thing for them. Because yes, there are lots of tactics and tricks and things that you can do, that you can force the situation, you can force a decision, but then you haven't really dealt with their true uncertainty, their true fears, and you haven't really closed the sale, you've manipulated a sale. And that's a big difference, because if you have truly closed a sale, you have anchored in a decision from somebody because they are absolutely, without a doubt, certain that this is the right thing for them. And oftentimes we get caught into making a decision. And we've all been in that, whether it's a sales situation or not, we've all been in a situation where it's like, well, shit, I got to decide something. So you pick something and maybe not exactly what you want. It'll do for now, but there will be other problems that surface up because of it. It's like, um, if your favorite brand of something that you buy at the grocery store isn't available, and you're like, ah, man, I really wanted that one thing, but now I don't know what to pick. It's like, oh, okay, is this going to be the right quality? Is it going to be the right flavor? Is it going to be the right texture? What is it? Like, you might have different things that you're a little bit uncertain of. And sometimes, if you're truly uncertain, you might walk away and decide, you know what, I'm going to go to a different store and see if they have what I really want there. And so sometimes the indecision can be that you are 100% clear about what you want, but you are either not able to get it, or you're not able to get it in the format or the size or the whatever it is that you're looking for, and that can lead to indecision and what looks like indecision on the outside. Whereas you're like, no, I'm clear about what I want, but the problem is it's not available. So now what the hell do I do? Now I have to start figuring out a different option. And so to other people, that may seem like you're being indecisive when you're not. You're clear about what you want. However, that's not available. So now you have to kind of go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan B, come up with a plan C, whatever it is. Or you have to reweigh the options available to you. So that can create some uncertainty. Sometimes people will wait and make a decision. Sometimes people will, I still want this, but I think I can get it at a different store. So you might try that different store. Um, so these are like simple examples that I'm giving, but these can happen in really complex decisions, right? Uh, your relationship. Do you stay? Do you go? What do you do? Right? And some people can be like, well, you know what? If in doubt, don't. Like, and there's a lot of things I apply that logic to. If in doubt, don't. No, this isn't the right thing. This isn't the right time. You trust your gut. You trust your intuition. Nope, this isn't a good thing. I'm not moving forward. Um, Other times you might be like, I know what I want, but it also depends on, sometimes there's other people that are impacted by the decision. And it's not so much, it's like, well, I could live with the consequences, but can the people around me live with the consequences, right? And so that can lead to uncertainty, indecision, all of those kind of things. And being able to really help somebody open up, talk that through, and they need to be able to talk that through in a safe place, right? The whole point is to eliminate the fear, because fear is causing the uncertainty. Fear is causing the indecision, which is the freeze state of the four stages of fear. And if you're not familiar with the four stages of fear, the first one is fight, the second one is flight, the third one is freeze, and the fourth one is fawn. And so what happens is, if that indecision and that fear state isn't um, resolved, that you haven't helped them eliminate the fear, then what will happen is they will default to the fawn stage, which is like, oh, it's, you know what, it doesn't matter. Whatever you think, you just pick for me, right? You just decide, right? Or like, okay, which do you think is the best? Which, you know what, for sales guys, sometimes that is good. It's like, I don't know, the customer doesn't know, so that you end up picking, but then they really haven't been closed. They may have purchased, but they also may come back with, um, a refund request. They might come back the next day and kind of second guess whether or not they should have done this, that you did not eliminate the uncertainty and the doubt that they had. If you have truly closed somebody, if you've truly helped them, then you have helped them make a decision that they are 100% certain about, and that they know that this is the right path for them. And if there's still hesitation, if there is still doubt, then there is still fear that hasn't been addressed. And sometimes that can be because they didn't feel safe enough to open up to you. They didn't feel safe enough to spill their guts, right? To be open, emotional, vulnerable with you, right? So this is why it's so important to take that decision making process from a logic, which often there's so many variables, there's so much fear, to getting to them to a place of so much certainty that even if a problem did come up, they are certain that you would be able to address it, that you would be able to help them solve the problem. And that is when a company, you want to be able to close in that format because um, you're going to have so much more loyalty, so much more. They're really going to be anchored in that this is the right company, product to solve their problem. Now, obviously, not all decisions are that in depth, but you can create brand loyalty when you are truly able to close a sale rather than just getting the money. Okay, there's a big difference. If you, yes, typically they're like, oh, you've closed the sale because you got the money. Well, no, just because you got the money doesn't mean you get to keep the money because they may refund the next day, or they may be a disgruntled customer or a pain in the ass customer that they're always questioning, always doubting whether or not this is the right thing. It's because the salesperson, they got the money, but they didn't close them. There's a big difference. Closing, you have a conviction that they are certain and they are safe. That is a big difference in how you actually close a sale, and it you have helped that person go from a head decision where it's just logical, oh, just give me the numbers, give me the price, all okay, I got to do these things, right? But they're not their heart isn't in it. They're not going to get the results from whatever you're closing because they they didn't take it to that level. They're not in their heart space. And the ability to move them from their head to their heart is where you truly close somebody, because now they're certain that this is the right thing for them. And it's not that you convinced them, you helped them answer their own questions by asking them questions really from a place of curiosity, a place of seeking to understand. So there's no gimmicks, there's no tricks, there's no, oh, say this line. That is not really closing. That is following a sales script, and that's for amateurs, right? And yes, it's good to have that laid out, and it's good to have a thought process of truly understanding your customer and what it is that your product will solve for them and what it won't solve for them. Because you really need to be clear about that as well. Because if you're bringing on people and it doesn't actually solve that problem, you're bringing on potential disgruntled customers that are going to talk badly about your product because it's not the right fit for them. Now, so this for me is important when you really help somebody make that decision and you anchor that in, they're a customer for life. They are loyal even if they no longer buy from you. They are loyal to a fault, right? That's the kind of closing and understanding of what's going on with indecision. And sometimes people need more time to be able to make that decision, and really creating that sense of safety, sense of trust. I've never been one that wants to, anchor somebody in with a deposit, because to me that just reeks of fear, that you don't actually trust that they'll come back, that you haven't done a good enough job closing, so therefore you have to kind of get something to twist them in. Now, yes, I understand they go back, they talk to their family members, and their family members talk them out of it or whatever, right? Their friends, their business partner, whatever it is, will talk them out of the sale. But if you have truly helped them uncover this, then And even if it wasn't in one call, that you do that follow up, that you are checking in, and they truly sense authentic care for that person that you're talking to, that you truly care about helping them solve the problem, whether it's with you or somebody else. That is going to go so much further, so much better, right? Because if you start closing off of a fear base and you are able to push or manipulate somebody into pushing them off the fence and making them decide, that that's going to come back and bite you in one form or another. It might not happen right away. You might have already got your sales award or whatever it is, um, but it's going to be a problem in the long run. So always make sure that when you're helping somebody, or if they seem like they're taking a long time, it's like, oh, come on already. Like, can you friggin' make a decision? It's like, and I know I've done this because I get short, I get impatient. I've had people where it's like, okay, can you just pick what you want to eat for dinner? Like, come on, we've been here for a half hour. Look at the menu. What the fuck do you want? Like, I get it. I can get that level of frustration as well when you think it's an easy decision. Understanding that doing that is going to cause fear in the other person. They're going to go from that free state to the fawn state. It's like, oh, I don't know. Well, what do you have? Okay, I guess I'll just have that. Where now what I try to do, and I had this happen the other day, is somebody was taking a long time deciding what they want to order at the restaurant, and instead of my usual, like, just pick something, like, come on, like, I'm ready to order, and I ordered, and I did default to my usual, like, impatient self, and I pushed, and then the other person said, well, I'm not really ready to order. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, the waitress can come back then, right? So, because I knew before we even went to the restaurant, because that's the whole reason we went to the restaurant, I knew exactly what I wanted. This is what I'm going to order. Don't try to give me anything else. So I kind of am like that. When I am decisive, I'm extremely decisive. And you can't really get me to flip that. But I do take a long time deciding sometimes. So, what I did instead is I started to ask this person, oh, okay, so tell me what kind of, like, I know you're really hungry, so you probably want everything on the menu, or have you narrowed it down to a couple of different things? And they're like, well, I was thinking about this or thinking about that, and just kind of got them talking about what it is that they were actually thinking about. And that helped them decide what it is that they actually wanted. So we helped narrow down. And it wasn't like I was giving any opinions or any ideas. I was just prompting them with questions so that they could decide on their own what was the best choice for them. And then, of course, by the time the waitress came back, they were able to place their order and they were happy, they were satisfied with what they chose, right? So, this is kind of something to be aware of when you're dealing with somebody who is indecisive. Ask them more questions about, tell me what it is that you are considering? What are the different options? How are you thinking about this? If depending on the level of rapport that you have with the person, it's like, okay, tell me what your concerns are. What are you afraid of? Because that's truly what you're trying to understand. It's like, okay, now if they don't feel like they can fully trust you, they're going to give you some sort of song and dance, some BS answer, right? Just to get you to leave them alone because they don't trust you enough to open up. And so if they've done that, then in your sales process, I would strongly recommend building more trust rapport. That's where you went wrong, that it's not, because now you're not dealing with facts and you can't actually solve the problem if they're denying what the problem is and they're just giving you smoke screens. And that is because they don't trust and you haven't built that rapport with them. So, and it might have nothing to do with you. they might have a longer scale. I know I'm very slow to trust. Um, I usually will give people an A. I'll give them like an A plus to start out with. That I'm very open, I'm honest, that kind of stuff. But if there's something that kind of feels off, something that is said in a certain tone, maybe it's triggered something from my past trauma, that I'm like, okay, something like, and once the trap gets shut, it doesn't get open too easily. Now I need more time to build that trust. So if there's certain things that have come up that have caused me uncertainty, doubt, it's like, okay, no, the brakes are on here. Now we got to stop. We got to think about this. I need to think of different options. What other possibilities? Now you've triggered fear. And now you have to work that much harder to be aware of what was it that triggered the fear. Was it something in my tonality? Was it something of, did I get a little bit pushy? Did I get a little bit, you know what, come on, hurry up, like make this decision, let's get moving, hurry up. And if it's that kind of thing, then you injected your energy of trying to push this along rather than enticing and pulling and opening up, saying, you know what, there's nothing to be afraid of here, you're safe. It's okay. And if you can do that in your sales call, you can help people feel safer. And the only way that you can do that is if you've actually done the inner work. You can learn the lines and all that stuff, but the energy is going to be off. And people that are much more skeptical, and trust me, as the economy goes the way it goes, and they're much more afraid. They're much more skeptical. They're holding on to their money a little bit tighter than you will need as a business owner, as a closer, as a sales rep, whatever it is. You will need to have a higher level of emotional intelligence to truly understand. This is not the 2020 COVID shooting fish in a barrel kind of sales anymore. That's not the kind of sales that are happening right now. These are either people that are much more afraid, much more cautious. Maybe they did jump in on things in 2020. Maybe they did try to test the waters and they didn't get the results that they were looking for. So there's a higher level of skepticism, of caution, of uncertainty, which is going to lead to greater indecision. So, yes, you can push them off the fence, but that may not get you the results that you're looking for, unless you're just looking at the short term, get the money, and worry about shit later. And some companies do run that way, and some can build quite fast success. So, if you want that and you are pushing forward and clean up the mess later, that's an option. That is a way to run the business. It will require a lot more headaches, a lot more problems that are going to be coming with that as well. Or you can build it in a way that your customers are strong and loyal and dedicated to the service that you provide because they truly feel like you actually care. And I would recommend that approach, especially for newer business owners, smaller businesses. Um, and now, if you have the infrastructure, the cash, and everything to be able to support moving at a faster pace, then by all means, go ahead and do that and get the sale closed, get the money. We'll figure this stuff out as we're going. I've been in both types of situations, both work. It depends on where you're at. So if you are having customers, though, that are having a higher degree of uncertainty, indecision, they have a higher fear um, factor that's in there. They are going to need a lot more care and a lot more attention. So you may not be actually serving them by bringing them into an organization that is expecting them to hit the ground running and just go, right? So be aware of that, and maybe instead of closing that potential client that's going to end up not getting the results that they want in your organization, to send them to a smaller organization that can give them that care, that dedication, that service. And hey, give that smaller organization a customer. Give them one and send them somebody that's going to need more care and attention. That's going to cause a headache for you because you're moving at too fast of a pace anyway. And guess what? As that smaller business owner grows, maybe they'll come to you for more services. All right. So that is something that I would recommend for you being happier, your customers being happier, your sales reps being happier, of making sure that you are addressing indecision in the correct way. Don't just make it as a blanket statement if indecision is a decision. It's like, no, sometimes you don't have enough information to properly and comfortably and safely make that decision. And the more you've been bitten in life, the more shy you are going to be about making those decisions. So, and in my corporate life, I was always given the people that got bitten a lot because I had the patience to deal with those kind of clients, that I was able to go above and beyond and to make sure that they felt safe, they felt comfortable, and I would offer extra stuff that nobody else in the company would offer because I wanted them, and I put like my own personal guarantee on it of like, hey, if you need these things, I'm going to make sure that these things are in place for you if you have anything. And so I did those kind of things that to ensure that the people I was bringing on, that they did feel safe and comfortable, that I was giving my word that the company would follow through on the promises being made. And so if I ever get to a point where I can't actually sell, and there were some times in corporate that I wasn't able to do that, it was harder. I couldn't, with confidence, give that conditional guarantee because I knew what was going on in the business, and operationally we had to solve some issues before I could confidently go back out there and say, yeah, no worries, we got you, don't worry, we're not going to cause these problems that you're concerned about. Especially if I knew that those were going to be problems, right? So um, I can't operate in um, and so my indecision or my lack of closing sometimes was just because it was out of alignment. And for me, in order to properly close, in order to make sure that I have the sale and I can close with conviction and that person feels taken care of, it has to, the company has to be in line as well. So if it's not, or if there's questions, there's uncertainty, there's doubts, and if I don't feel that raising those concerns will actually get addressed, then that will slowly start to diminish. It's not like, oh, there's a problem, now I can't close. No, don't get me wrong, because all companies have problems, all things are going to be there. But if you have a culture, you have a company that has a culture that you know that when things are brought up, that they will get addressed, that they will be taken seriously, regardless of who in the organization is bringing these concerns up, that there is some certainty that there is a process that this will be dealt with, that even if it isn't perfect, we know that everybody within the organization truly cares about servicing that customer that is coming in. So that's kind of what I have to say for indecision today. And like I said, sometimes this can tie back to, you know, a trauma response. You know, the more time somebody's been bitten, the more uncertain, the more time that they're going to need to be able to make this decision fully. And really being able to help them open up, ask questions, help them make that decision by asking questions rather than giving blanket statements is going to garner so much more trust, so much more assurance. And at the end of the day, that is what we are looking for when we are helping somebody make a decision. Whether you're doing this in sales and closing, or you're doing this with your kids rather than having to fight them all the time of, eating their veggies or doing the right thing or going to bed on time. um, scratch my nose there at that because I'm terrible at that. And the thing is the minute I sense that I am being controlled or coerced, I really have to work on this reaction because I know it doesn't serve me, and I will shoot myself in the foot every time that this reaction comes up in me that I fight this, right? Because of so many things, and it has to do with the trust factor. If I do not have clear, open, honest communication, direct from the source, it will raise a level of mistrust and it will bring up unnecessary resistance. And it's just because I'm like, oh, wait a second here. I'm being controlled. What's going on? That because of all of the experiences. And I know this sounds like an excuse, but sometimes this isn't voluntary, okay? Sometimes this kicks in and once I realize, oh, okay, this is what's kicked in. Now internally because I've done the inner work, I know, okay, I need to mitigate the emotions, deal with the emotions, understand where the fear is coming from so that I can override that fear with logic and truth and certainty. That, okay, this is in my best interest. I do want to make these changes, these decisions, these things. I do want to move forward on that. But if there's that lack of communication, I know for me, because I've been bitten so many times, um, that automatic default response will kick in, and now I have to work to override those um, those programmed responses. And now I have to do that inner work to chase the chain and figure out, okay, where's the source of the chain? Where am I tied here? Okay, this is where it is. Now I can go talk to that scared inner child here and reassure her that it's not the same situation. So inner work can sometimes come up so we can be aware of what the process is and everything. But I'm telling you, when these little ones inside of us kick in, that trap goes closed, and you're like, fuck, now I have to do all this extra work. Now I have to dig and I have to understand what's going on here. And sometimes you have to sit like this, and it's this battle that goes on, and you're just like, oh God, it's happening again. This battle between your head and your heart. And it's really, really understanding the emotions because your brain can tell you just do the thing, just take the action. It's not that friggin' hard. Why is this such a problem? And I can promise you that will not get you to move forward any faster. Yes, there are times where you can just take the actions and then your emotions will kind of follow with it. But there are times when once that trap has closed on you, now you have to deal with the emotions. You have to uh, calm the alarm bells down, and then you can now think logically. And so, because of how much I've gone through, and I realize that this is usually what ends up holding me back in the indecision. It's like those alarm bells got triggered, and it does not matter how much fucking logic I try to use in this situation, logic will not help you if you've triggered a trauma response. This happens in negotiations too, right? And I've had that before. I've set off some trauma alarms for other people, and once they get set off, well, you aren't the one that is going to be able to solve that problem. Now I have to call in somebody else because I did something or I said something in a certain tone. We got off on a wrong foot, and now somebody else will have to come in to uh, reduce the threat level, if you will, so that they can calm down enough and see that it is safe. And we've all done this in business. I've done this where I've had to step in because my manager has triggered alarm bells in somebody, and they're like, oh, and now these two are fighting. And it's like, okay, we're supposed to be negotiating, we're supposed to be on the same side of the table, and they're both at a fuck you kind of stage, right? So now you have to step in and you have to bring somebody else in to diffuse the situation, to calm things down, to bring some level of safety so that you can get back to the negotiations and believing and trust and building that trust again, that trust and rapport. So, more times than not, I was the one that was brought in to to reduce the threat level and bring those safe negotiations back to the table and to build that trust and rapport. That being said, there's plenty that I've set off myself and somebody else has to come in. And that's just the benefit of being on a team and being able to build that rapport. Because if you do have that trust in the company, at any given time, somebody, you're just not in that right frame of mind that day. Maybe you needed more sleep. Maybe you had a fight with your spouse before you came to work, whatever it was, that there's all these different things that can end up setting us off. And just know that even when we know all of these things, we are all human beings, right? And our emotions will sometimes kick in and get us to make incorrect decisions that will have consequences for us. So now I know that if I'm in that emotional state, I definitely will delay any major decisions. Sometimes I make incorrect decisions and I by reacting. And when you are doing that, you are not operating out of your best self. Things that you would normally let slide, now you decide that you have to fight about something. So, just like I did earlier today, and I realized that that was not the best decision. And I had a nap, I felt better, made my apologies, I'm good, right? So, Rambling Cornish maid. I think that must be my cue, my sign from the universe to wrap it up. So, with that, guys, I think I'm going to wrap up tonight's training. And if you guys are jumping in late and you want to watch the replay, go over to my YouTube channel, Coach Tina B. 125, and make sure you click on subscribe so that you get the notifications advising you once I've uploaded the video. Okay, guys, I hope this was helpful. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.